Warrior, here we are. Please check in with me before we begin. A 5 by 5 would be great. Let's get going because this was one of the most productive weeks I think the Warriors has ever had. And I want to share all the information with you because there's so much hope. There's so much great stuff happening on the local level, but also at the federal level. I want to make sure you know about it because we're always talking a lot about doom and gloom. So let me give you some hope today about how things are changing. Things are changing fast. I welcome all of you. Thank you. Live at 5 with the Warriors. Let me check in and see who's here. Linda's here. Welcome. Edie. Edie, you're missing something, and that is push the like button. But I'll give you a chance to do that. There's Lionel Nation, loud and clear and brilliant per usual. Thank you. Thank you, husband, in all transparency. Let's get right to it. First of all, it's a beautiful day in New York City. I am thrilled because the streets are packed. It hit a high of 80. It's 79 right now. And I was out at some meetings this morning, got back just a little while ago. I can't tell you how happy it makes me to see so many tourists, to hear so many languages, to see families eating ice cream. I walked along Central Park South. So you've got hotels and apartment buildings on one side. You've got the park on the other side, Central Park, packed like I've never seen it. No exaggeration. Columbus Circle area, people going in all different directions. Every restaurant packed. Lots of souvenir stands in places I've never seen them before. And guess what they're selling, everybody? I'm seeing a lot of hats, red hats being sold, bobbleheads, Donald Trump bobbleheads, magnets. I have never seen that on the streets of New York. So, you know what? Everybody got out today. They're feeling good, and let this good feeling continue because we need tourists in New York. We need people on the streets. We need to drive all criminals out. And you know what? They're pretty much gone since January. I'm telling you, where everybody went, I'm not sure, but I'm not seeing what I saw a few months ago. And it is a welcome pleasure. Fred is here. Hello, Fred. And Larry is here. There you go, Edie. Please hit the like button for Lynn. Actually, hit the like button for the kids because we want to have, be on that super highway of algorithms where we get the information out to all of you and you can share it. And you know what? I have to do a little housework, as we say around here. Please make sure you're subscribed because things happen. People get unsubscribed. I can't subscribe you. It is very curious, though, when somebody tells me they've subscribed and they've been subscribed for a while, and a few months later they find out they're unsubscribed. We don't know what that's about. We're not going to ask too many questions, but I'm going to let you double check that. Please do that because numbers count here on the internet, as we like to say. I want to tell you about some other great things that are happening. I was in Washington, D.C. this week. Cherry blossoms are blooming like crazy all over that city, and that city was packed. Here we go. Fred's got the right idea here. Gifted 10 Lynn's Warriors memberships. Fred, you are number one warrior. Thank you for doing that. It means everything because this information then is being shared with 10 people. So I thank you for all of that. Let me tell you about Washington. Well, just beautiful. Buds are popping on all the cherry trees. Some of them, cherry blossom trees, some of them were out because you know the history, if you look up the history of Washington and the cherry blossoms. And it is the number one, one of the number one times of year. They told me, actually, different people told me different things, where, thank you, Fred, all hail Fred Haddad Jr. Yes, we all agree with that. He is a warrior, Fred the warrior. People are flocking into Washington. It's also this week and next week, a lot of kids are off from schools. I understand last week was a lot of private schools. The public schools are coming up this week. Do you know what I saw? I saw throngs, I do not exaggerate here, in front of the White House. Jockeying, baby carriages, wheelchairs, families to get pictures of themselves in front of the White House. I mean, 10 deep. And there's a park across the street, Lafayette Park, packed with people and the cherry blossoms. I always stop into for my husband the White House gift shop to see what kind of merch they have to bring home some little gifts we may not have, although we're pretty much up there on our Donald Trump merchandise, to be honest with you. But the place was packed with people buying stuff. It was kind of crisp when I got to Washington earlier in the week. windy, but you know what? We started out, and this is what I want to share with you. I want to share. KWC says, thank you for the gifted membership. There you go. See, Fred, you're warrior, number one warrior today. The Warriors were very honored and lucky to be part of a trafficking policy roundtable with the Senate. So we started our day with that. And 2 sessions, so about 5 to 6 hours, bipartisan. And we had Marsha Blackburn, we had Richard Blumenthal, we had Dick Durbin, we had Andy Biggs, we had Amy Klobuchar, a whole host of people there to discuss truly bipartisan efforts by the Warriors and many other groups, and also survivors, victims of all of this exploitation. We always have to have them at the table, and we have to let them lead us with their thoughts, what needs to be done. It was so constructive. We reviewed all the legislation pending. We reviewed new pieces of legislation that are not even announced yet. But I'm here to say to you that it was a feel-good. People want to get the work done. There is a new attitude in Washington where everybody is welcome. You're not hiding anymore. Wear a red hat if you want to. Don't wear the red hat if you want to. I really saw no protesting at all. I saw loads of people. The hotels were packed because I also ran around to meet different people that came into town so I could have meetings with them. So I was at different hotels to meet. Packed. The work's going to get done in 2025. We must get everything done now going forward until we get to the midterms. We want to be very secure in our work. I had an extremely high-level meeting. I'm just leaving it at that for now. And the ideas we have at the Warriors are the ideas I am convinced, and I know in my heart, these are the ideas that work. Yes, I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a teacher by profession. I'm just a warrior. The ideas I have work. So we had strategy, we had brainstorming, collaboration, which is something I'm always preaching at the Warriors. And I am telling you, stay tuned because big things are happening. I am also here to say that I want to make sure that our First Lady, Melania Trump, stays on her path of her Be Best program. Now, let me explain that. The day before the State of the Union, she was the first lady who went to Congress. She went with Senator Ted Cruz, who is one of the main sponsors of the Take It Down Act. And she wanted to show support for this bipartisan legislation. And she brought 2 of the victims, teenage girls, of this online exploitation. And it's all about AI creating these deep fakes of all of us, basically. And Take It Down simply says, you got to forget all the jargon and everything in a bill. Here's the bottom line for Take It Down. The platform, whether that be Facebook or Insta or Snap, any of them, X, if there is an inappropriate image and you request to that company to take it down, and they do not within 48 hours, you are going to have the right to hold them responsible in a court of law, and they will also suffer, criminal penalties, a financial fine, so to speak. And we know with the support of our FLOTUS, that I'm fairly confident that this will be the first piece of child safety legislation to pass in decades. I mean, can you believe that? So we have all of that going on. This is very positive because we've always believed at the Warriors, we have something also not introduced yet called the Gracie Act. Did you know that when a child is taken to CPS, Child Protective Services, there are no laws in any states, not one state, that initial interview with a child must be recorded. I didn't even know that. Wouldn't you think that they would want to cover themselves and record everything? Nothing. How can we have a child alone with an adult and not have, our video, evidence of this initial intake? So the Gracie Act is going to address this, and we're behind it at the Warriors. These are things as they come up for vote that I need you to take action on, and I'll let you know because we need you there with us. These are all common sense things. Wouldn't you think after all these years that a child taken into, CPS, Child Protective Services, any of those foster care, group homes, you think the initial intake would be recorded? I was shocked. So that's like a no-brainer. Yes, Janine says that's nuts. It really is. Fred, don't be embarrassed. Where it is the badge of the warrior? I mean, that's what it's about around here. So we have that going on. And we have also something here on the local level in New York State. We have the Sarah's Law, Sarah's Act, based on a past victim who eventually unlived or unalived or whatever I'm allowed to say here on the YouTube, her pimp slash boyfriend slash trafficker. And she ended up in prison for many, many years. And she began this relationship with him when she was a young teen, and she snapped one night, and you know the rest of the story. But they put her in prison. And you have to understand, we need more survivor services. We need people understanding the psychological, the mindset of these victims, including, and I'm going to say prostitutes, because that's what everybody calls them. We call them at the Warriors prostituted people, understanding that upwards of 91 to 97% are forced into this prostitution, this sex trade. Those are the facts. I'm giving you the reality. So if that's the case, and they're a pimp trafficker slash boyfriend, and I throw that in because a lot of these relationships with young girls, teens start with they think it's a boyfriend, and then it transpires into other things. If you love me, you'll do this for me, that kind of thing. And we want that criminal pimp trafficker held responsible. They are getting girls, women, boys, everybody, especially the kids, to do other crimes, deal drugs, organized theft, all of that stuff, these crime rings. Why should a girl who's been under this duress starting at 13 years old, and she's finally had enough after 8 years and snaps, why should she be thrown in jails and prisons? Right now, we have, on any given night in America, we have 2,000 children. I'm talking about America. I'm going to keep saying that. 2,000 children in jails and prisons. And we have that because in many places, they will say we have no place to put them, so we put them in an adult jail, which is even worse. Can you imagine a 12-year-old girl? This is happening in America. So this is why my concern, although a global problem, epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call all of this, is global in nature. We have to focus right here at home, right here in our own homes, communities, towns, cities, and get this work done. And it's going to get done. It's beginning to get done. Will we stop all of this? Of course we won't. That's the reality, because we give you the reality in the Warriors, but we will intervene. We will not let this grow. And we need to hold those accountable. Throwing children in prisons. Andrew Hessing, thank you so much for the children. Yes, indeed, for the children. It's all for the children. We are going this week. Let me just finish up with this Sarah's Law. Please always make sure you check our Warriors X and our Warriors Facebook for information I put there. And if you do nothing else, please, please, please just share some of that information on your platform so we can get information out there. So when I post about Sarah's Law, maybe you can share that. Why should any minor child, be thrown into jail? Sometimes it's an actual prison, and sometimes, more likely, it's an adult jail. They're thrown in with adults. Makes no sense. The justice system is upside down. So we're fighting a lot of that. A good handle on this, our great colleagues, Yasmin Vafa, Rights for Girls. You can find them, rightsforgirls.org. I did an interview with her. I suggest all of you go back and look at that. Did that about a week and a half ago with her, doing incredible work for all of these rights for girls. I also want to mention that Rights for Girls launched a billboard campaign around the NCAA in the host cities talking about sex trafficking, exploitation. People are visual, right? People like to look at things. Did you ever just post a picture and you get, 500 likes? You post a study with really good information, maybe you get Maybe you get 10 likes. People are visual. It's the way it goes. Whatever works. These billboards catch people's eyes. Raising awareness sounds very simple. It's always raising awareness, right? Okay, we have to keep raising awareness because people are in denial about these horrible subjects. I don't blame them. We have to know what's going on. We have to know what's going on with kids and grandkids. We have to know all of this. Hillbilly says desperation causes bad decisions. Absolutely. Somebody trapped has no choice. It's funny, I was talking with somebody today about that, and she's very well versed and knowledgeable and was in town, and we met up. And yes, we talk a lot about educating parents. We talk a lot about raising awareness. What we don't talk about a lot, and I try to bring up in the Warriors, what about all these kids who don't have any parents or guardians really looking out for them? This is a huge problem we do not address. Uh, we have kids, drug-addled parents, single-parent household, parents that take off, leave the older kids to take care of the younger kids. We have all kinds of dynamics about this. We also had an interesting conversation that we were talking also about all of these unaccompanied minors. I was told when I was in Washington by a good source, it's really in excess of 800,000. We have always spoken, on the Warriors about over 500,000, over 800,000. Really, it could be a million. What are they doing? Mostly, and something we must talk about more, is labor trafficking. We have 13, almost 14 American states that have very quietly, I talked about it a few months ago, but I want to bring it up again. I have to talk more about it. 13, I believe a 14th pending, where child labor laws have been amended. And I'm here to say they are Republican red states. We got to address this, everybody. What is this about? That in one state, a child can work at age 14 until 11 at night on a school night? Or they can work in that meat packing, very dangerous job? Or, right, don't you want to know about these issues? Because you're not going to see them on mainstream media news. I can guarantee that. So we got to dive more into that one, and I've got to be very clear cut about that and bring that up. The other thing I'm very happy about in Washington is our persistent talk about none of this online safety, education, raising awareness. We will have no accountability if we cannot get rid of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And you've heard me talk about that before. Well, I'm talking about it again because it sounds boring, but it's holding everything up. And you know what? In Washington, they're very polite in Washington. I'm kind of real. I just get to it. They're a little stiff. But whatever. The doors are open. I say kick it to the curb. They call it sunsetting it. Let it go down like a sunset. What? Kick it to the curb, get rid of it, is what the Warriors say. R. Heath, thank you very much. R. Heath is saying, thank you to whoever gifted me a membership. Well, that, I believe, would be Fred, our number one warrior happening right now. There's Fred. Welcome to the membership club. And Fred, thank you also for X and Facebook and retweeting my things and liking my things. Thank you. Makes me very happy because, again, that's what we need. We need to get this information out there. But I want to talk about this Section 230. It is something the public needs to understand. The other part of the Senate roundtable, I said this is well, good, and fine. Everybody, with all due respect, all of us sitting here understand these issues implicitly. The American public does not understand or have the time to understand with their overwhelmed lives. We have to give them the tools, or we have to hand them easy lifting, as I like to say, to get them on board with us. It is not good enough that we sit around and keep talking about it. We have to have these take actions, and we have to get the public on board. I think if the public really understood a lot of things, and this is not like I'm slamming anybody or saying you don't understand, it's just if you don't hear about it or have information about it, how are you supposed to know what to do or address with your child or your grandchild or your family member? I said we have to get rid of this Section 230 That's it. And it simply states, because it's a big, long, boring thing if you read about it, came out in 1996. Remember that? 1996. Long time ago, almost 30 years ago. Simply says any of these platforms are billboards, newsstands, and cannot be held responsible for any third party content. So go ahead and post your horrible images and bullying and whatever. Remember, we're a family show here, skirting around algorithms. None of this matters because we're not responsible. Yet they look at you and they look at the children, and especially the children, as nothing but dollar signs. We've had whistleblowers who tell us this. They are making money off the backs of our children. It's got to stop. We got to figure out a better way with all of this. They need to be held accountable. Why is the burden on the child? Why is the burden on parents, right? Why is the burden on anybody but those big tech platforms who are creating and doing all of this and allowed to just run amok, rampant? Now, since 1996, got to change. Going to change in 2025. I guarantee you. When we come back in a few months and talk about these issues, you're going to start seeing a lot of change, especially with the advent of AI, the artificial intelligence, the AGI, also with the deep fakes. We cannot allow this to rule the world. We've got this whole situation with kids. It's already happening with the bots. They're developing relationships with these fake. It's just fake. A bot is fake. But because they take on perhaps even the image and conversation and get to know a child's likes and dislikes, and the child's brain really begins to think they're in a relationship with this bot. It's their friend. It could be boyfriend, girlfriend. Crazy things are already happening. We can't allow this. We've already had several cases. Of course, media doesn't really cover them, but we cannot have something fake controlling. Somebody asked me why this is happening. I don't know. I know it has to stop. And I'm not one that ever says I don't know. What I do know is bad players like power, bad players like bullying, bad players like money. It is very crass, but it is the answer to everything going on. Money, money, money. So we do have some wonderful tech companies addressing things. But what we need this in the school system. We need something that says this has to be taught to the kids. They have to be made aware. The teachers have to be made aware. And we've got to get that into action. So that brings me, I'm really happy because this week, this Friday, I'm going to Berkeley College, which is in New Jersey. And our colleagues also, the Wonder Girls, they are having, it is like this, remember speed dating? It's going to be the Warriors and several others. We've got psychologists, we've got people owning businesses, and we're going to do these fast kind of groups where, like groups of 10 girls will come to the Warriors table, and I'll give them, the speed talk and what they can do, and I'll give them some goodies to take home and read. Because at the Warriors, we always want you to have a take action and follow up. Like, what is it all about? So, in 10 minutes, you can't cover a lot of things, but you can get it out there. You can be that warrior cheerleader, and you can give them handouts, and you can give them bracelets and cookies and all kinds of things that kids like. I am very proud of the Wonder Girls. We did a teen safety summit, I want to say probably about 2 months ago, 300 girls ages 12 to 17. So we thank Berkeley College for hosting this. It's going to be very exciting. I love talking with kids and teens. I mean, that's where it's at. Our future adults, right? Our future leaders. So we can get them on board. And that is so great. The other thing I want to get on your agenda coming out of Washington is coming up. Can you believe it's April almost, everybody? Is April 3rd. There is going to be, and you can find it on the Warriors X account, and I'll put it on Facebook as well. Every year, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation puts out the Dirty Dozen list. The DDL 2025, I am very excited about. I can't let the cat out of the bag, as they say. But think about some of the things I was just telling you, and maybe you can figure it out. What they do is they are doing a fantastic release. So you have to sign up for the Zoom link to be notified, or you'll see me post it on the Warriors. And they release 12 entities that are not living up to the standards online. And they've had major successes over 6 years with companies like Google, uh, X, Roblox, all companies that are not keeping our kids safe. And they have been, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, responsible for creating change in that space. They are doing excellent work. I am here to say they have a new president, and that is Marcel van der Watt. You can look for that interview I did with him a couple of weeks ago, right here in the Warriors. I'm suggesting you take advantage of these things and learn some things you don't know, because again, you're not going to hear this in any kind of mainstream media. And law enforcement in South Africa, hostage negotiator, one of the smartest people I know, and I like the idea of a man in this leadership position, and I'll tell you why. When I am told boys are the fastest growing demo in human trafficking, exploitation in the United States, we need more male voices to step up and support them and mentor them and help them, as opposed to me, talking to 10-year-old, 12-year-old boys and older. We need the men to step up and do that. We also need our men to support our girls and our women in all of this exploitation that they are not standing for. They are not having, women and girls exploited. It is not happening because so many of these survivors we work with and victims have such a bad taste in their mouth, about men, and they're scared of men. And then in most places, it's basically male law enforcement who's trying to arrest them, so they're scared of men. We got to change that up, right? A lot of these girls and young women don't have father figures, fathers, got to change it up. Something we never talk about. I'm going to say it, so I hope you're sitting down. We have an explosion of sibling on sibling abuse. I'm going to just say that. Also, youth on youth abuse. And where are the kids learning this? They're seeing it online, because these algorithms are presenting the kids with a lot of this porn, this horrible garbage stuff that kids, I've told you before, are innocently perhaps looking at something, and eventually, I don't know, somebody could put in, they want to go shopping for a short skirt. Next thing you know, you're getting these videos, and they're not even looking for that. And once seen, cannot unsee. So that is a whole nother issue we have to talk about with our kids. But we have so many issues. It's the familial trafficking. That's one family member pimping out, selling, exploiting a son, a daughter, a wife, a sister. It's horrific. Not enough discussion about that. And the explosion of youth, child on child abuse, right? Who's talking about that? People barely want to talk about slavery, as I call it, the enslavement of people with trafficking. But we also have to include a lot of labor. That's where I was going there before, but I think I went on to something else. A lot of these unaccompanied minors, that's where I was going before, are part of labor trafficking. People like to say sex trafficking. Yes, it's happening. If I didn't know better, now that I sit back, I think about it, there might be equal, if not more, of these unaccompanied minors in labor trafficking. Automotive plants, meatpacking, construction, farming, all that stuff. Working in, a remote bar, restaurant. People like cheap labor. Goes for both Republicans and Democrats. I've said that before, and I've gotten a lot of pushback. I don't care, because that's the truth. So everybody should just understand we're all adults, and we should really talk about what's really happening. So we have that going on. Let me just see some of the comments. Linda says, it drives my donuts that people just let the dogs chase tails. They do not get out in person to make the issues heard. Well, that's exactly right, Linda. People talk a lot and complain a lot, but people actually have to really do something. And more than ever, I am here to tell you, it's a new country, and you got to get out there. I don't care. Every small gesture counts towards something, which is why I tell you to re-X me, whatever it's called these days. I guess it's called retweet still, or Facebook or LinkedIn. Go, look what's on there that we put. I can't keep up. I could sit all day on those sites and just put studies and information, missing kids, but one doesn't have time for all of that. So you got to do a little homework yourselves and look at things, but research them, because with this subject matter, I really don't like when everybody jumps on board. For instance, sex trafficking. I really think people think that sounds like sexy or something. They'll get the clicks and the likes, and it's like salacious or something like that. And we want the facts about that. We don't want people dropping their thoughts, really. I think you understand what I mean, or misinformation about all that. It's a very serious subject that so many kids and teens and just people in the United States. Can you believe we have to talk about this in the United States? Somebody was asking me about, which I'm going to lead into. So we got to keep an eye on this labor trafficking and talk about that more, right? You all know lots of labor trafficking in products we use. We have to be more aware of chocolates, where they come from. A lot of problems with people working in the fields and in the factories, being forced. We have to talk about beauty products and palm oil and how these women are out in the fields in these other countries. Products so many of us are using. What are we going to do about that? Sure, it's easy to order it on Amazon or pick it up in the store, but we have to become more aware of how we're spending our dollars. At least that's the warrior way. And would you want your wife or girlfriend or daughter out in the fields, giving birth, which is actually true, and then 2 minutes later tying the baby to her body, standing up and out there again doing what she has to do? No, no. So that has to do, with there's an increase in people being trafficked in all these other countries to create all of these online scams we have going on, right? There's tremendous, tremendous information about that and studies as far as law enforcement has to get that. FBI's put out a few warnings, but they have to do more on that, like on a daily basis. So many of these, your daughter's been arrested kind of thing, send $500, or it looks like the email to your bank, right? But you have to very carefully check that, because there's a letter or a number off, and it's some scam, like your deposit didn't go through, please reconfirm your information, or you ordered this from Walmart. I'm just making these things up. And your address, it came back, your address is incorrect. Could you please confirm that? Come on, everybody. The scams are exploding in the United States. And these people doing this behind the scenes, do you know a large portion of them are trapped? Do you know in Nigeria, for the sextortion, mostly of our teenage boys here in America, that they have like warehouses where they're sitting on computers and they're trained how to traffic our American boys with this sextortion? Those people, a lot of them doing this sextortion, are trafficked themselves. So we've got a whole web of things going on. Let me check what everybody's saying. Let's see. You get posted from me all the time. So very serious. Thank you, Linda, for that. And Edie says, Lynn, I have often been consequences for doing a general share of Lynn's Warriors, but sharing with individual friends a messenger which is connected to Facebook work. So I do multiple shares. Edie, you're a warrior. You know that. You've been with us from the beginning. You've empowered me. All of your positive comments and sharing, that empowers me to fight harder, to do more, to ask more questions. And also, you're like a focus group for me. So if anybody has any questions or anything, you can always write to me, lynn@lynswarriors.org, because I need to know what you're thinking. That's like when I go into schools, I don't talk to the kids. I let the kids talk to me. I kind of drag the information out of them. And once they're comfortable, they really open up. And that's what we need to do. We need to know what, Edie, I don't know what's going on in your neighborhood. I need to know things, right, to have this information. But I want to just review that. We've got this great Dirty Dozen list coming out on April 3rd from our great friends at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. I'll be spending a lot of time in Washington, and so I'll be filling you in as we move along. But this week was absolutely the best. Go online, look up about the cherry blossoms. They make people so happy. People in Washington were walking around smiling. When I was there in the last couple of years, it was dark and dirty and dusty, and it's like 3 people in front of the White House. Nobody was running around fighting to take pictures, fighting in a good way. Souvenir shop, White House gift shop down the street from the White House, nobody in it. It was sad. Hotels empty, restaurants empty. Things were booming. This is good news. So we have that going on. And I want to leave you with something I want you all to think about. I really would like for you to, um, if you have a little time or just want to sneak around the internet, whatever you're doing, to really understand there's so much hope going on, despite all these things I'm telling you, and there's so many terrible things that should never have been allowed in this country. They are getting undone very quickly. Things are happening. I'm proud to say that I can be a part of Washington and go there much more frequently and have a voice and strategize and brainstorm and create solutions, because we need resources and solutions more than anything. But I want to finish with this. As I rushed back from Washington, I went immediately last night to Astoria, Queens, to the most moving, how can I describe this, live event you will ever see. I guarantee. Pictures do not do it justice. It is called the Black Poster Project. I urge all of you, I put a few pictures up, I'll do a few more later, theblackposterproject.com. And we did last night, theblackposterproject.com, with the New York DEA, which is the drug. Yes, I'm proud of it. I like the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration. They are very good to the warriors. Parents were there, family members. I want to tell you what this is, because it goes into all of our education with the warriors. And that is why when we go into schools, we go in with the DEA, as I talk about internet and digital safety and exploitation and trafficking, slavery. Get that straight, everybody. It is the enslavement of people. And that we have this going on in the United States at these rates. And I just told you, boys, number one demo right now. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Children need to have a life free and be safe and be in safe spaces. But anyway, let's get back to the Black Poster Project. The Black Poster Project, born out of a mom, Dee Gillen, whose son, we like to say, were poisoned, not overdosed. Fentanyl. Fentanyl is a poison. Illicit fentanyl I'm talking about, because fentanyl has a medical purpose for people in pain, for instance, with cancer. We are talking about the illicit fentanyl. And Dee took her son's picture and she took a black poster and she mounted his picture. And she just started very organically, very grassroots, which that's what we are at the Warriors, very community-based. And other moms began writing to her. She put things online about her son in the black poster. And other families started writing to her. And she, out of her own pocket, would say, I will create a black poster for your child. This Black Poster Project has grown in such a short time in leaps and bounds. This YouTube last night was the Queens DA office, our New York City medical examiner, a doctor who deals with addiction. I'm telling you, please go on our Warriors Facebook. I'll be putting, I did put a little collage, but and again, the pictures don't do it justice. To walk into this hall, that mom, Glynis Burke, you can find that interview along with Dawn Pizzolatty right here on the Warriors as well. To get more of a feeling, go back. I suggest you listen to that. This hall for the local union, IATSE, I won't go into unions right now, which is the movie industry, basically. I'm getting choked up. I walked into the hall last night, and it's hundreds and hundreds of black posters that these women, it has grown by leaps and bounds, that no parent pays for, right? You know, they have donations and do it out of their own pockets. The most beautiful posters with the faces of child after child after child. There was a section for military young people. To see that and stand with those faces and those stories, and everybody there had a story. It was my brother. It was my son. It was my granddaughter. It is so powerful and overwhelming. And I want to promote the DEA New York division because Frank Tarantino's special agent shows up to all of these events to support this Black poster group, as we do the Warriors as well, to support these moms. What can you say to these moms? They're so lovely. They're so giving. You feel good around them. I know that's like a horrible thing to say because you're in a room with hundreds and hundreds of posters of dead children and teens and young people. And this gives them purpose, they talked about, that they are helping like this. And they're traveling around. Last August, they were at St. Patrick's Cathedral, which was terrific because it's also a tourist spot. So people were coming in and people saw these faces, they were telling me. I was out of town that weekend, and they were telling me, working by the way, but they were telling me, and I'm very sorry to miss it, but it could not be helped, that people were like happy and saying, oh, what are these kids doing? Whatever. And when they told them, these children are no longer with us. They said the looks of horror on people's faces was beyond, but we have to be real here, right? We have to shock people. The days of skirting around issues are over. So I go to this, straight from Washington. I go to this last night. It was held in Astoria, Queens, which is neighboring New York City, right across the river. It was so overwhelming. When I walked in, the woman at the table, checking people in and saying hello, handed me a pack of tissues. And she said, you will need these. And I also took a video. I just walked around. I'll post that later, of all these faces. And what got me, and I'm sitting there as the town hall was going on and the presentation. And again, Frank Tarantino talks about what the DEA does. And what I love about them is they want community partnerships. They want to work to help keep you safe. They're doing this day in and day out. There's some wonderful women that I work with there. Sierra and Joanna, community outreach. They want to help you, right? They want to help us in the schools. That one pill can kill. Can't buy on the internet. Let's talk to the kids. Don't take anything from a stranger. And he explained, he went through some stories, explained, do not buy on the internet from any drugstore on the internet, but all of their successes. And they've had many, just in the last 2 months. I'll leave it at that. But it was a very powerful and healing for all of these family members that were there, that we come, we spend the time, we talk to them. So I'm urging all of you. Again, I'll post some more pictures. I have some pictures up there on Facebook and X, but I'll post more later. What got to me as I was sitting there, I looked to my left and it said siblings. And one mom lost her 5 children to this poisoning, this illicit fentanyl. Now understand, it comes out of China, into Mexico, into the United States. Now, the borders pretty much are closed for the most part, right? But what's happening now is the chemicals are being shipped. How are they being shipped? FedEx, UPS, United States Postal Service, DHL. They're now shipping chemicals and then pressing the illicit pills here. And there's cross-contamination. They're not chemists. They're just throwing things in and selling them for $2, $5, whatever they're doing, Percocet and Oxys. And we have to tell our kids about this because this is killing hundreds a day in the United States. So a shout out to the Black Poster Project. They'll be in Montclair, New Jersey next week. I'll be posting the schedule. These women are committed and making a difference. And again, they started from nothing. They started from pain. And they give. Lionel Nation says, thank you for your support. I can tell you firsthand that my wife is devoted to this cause 24/7. Her commitment is inspiring. Thank you, husband, as is your commitment to the truth about all. But we'll leave that for another show. Fred, if you're sensitive and empathetic energies, you can't help but feel that your gravesite pains emotion. Okay? The fentanyl poisoning is a maddening crisis. We must help each other as much as we can. And we must help each other because this is an American crisis, is the intentional poisoning of killing of Americans. This is what it is. And again, people say, why is this happening? Because somebody can, because somebody is making money and getting joy out of doing this to our children, to our family members. And we're Americans. We're not going to allow this, right? We're warriors. It's not happening. So I could go on and on. I want you to know it was a great week. I want you to know there was so much hope. There was so much success that is happening and will be happening in Washington. And I'll be right there to be part of it, as will you. You will travel with me. And we'll do shows perhaps from Washington. I think that would be good too, since I'll be there more. And I really want you in on the action. But I want to also, before I sign off, there's a great contest, and I did post it on X and Facebook. And it is for kids, I believe, in grades 3 through 12. You're writing what America means to me. And it was put out yesterday by the White House, but it's being sponsored by a bunch of companies like Walmart and a whole bunch of different companies. But the White House yesterday thought this was most important. They sent this to me to share it with everybody, to get our kids involved as we are coming up on our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, right? Which is going to be some kind of hoopla here in America. Get ready, everybody. And we're going to celebrate our country and how we're improving it. And by you being here today, you're helping me so much improve it. Remember, it's always for the children. It's engagement, it's education, and it's empowerment. Kiss your kids, hug your kids, and hug each other. Adults need it as well. So let's go back. Let me see. Let me thank R. Heath. Thank you. Andrew Hessing. Thank you very much. Fred, you're the best. Thank you. And all of you for signing in. I'm going to try perhaps tomorrow to do another show because I have one project I want to tell all of you about that I do need help with. And I'd like you all to be a part of that. But with that, it's Saturday night. Go enjoy, do what you must, and always remember to be a warrior. Thanks, everybody.